With just a few months until the presidential election, a number of super PACs are starting to ramp up political ads. One group accusing the president of a number of policy and personal failures has already released a handful of ads like this one.
America will again and soon be open for business. We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. We're not going to let the cure be worse than the problem.
The Lincoln Project is behind that ad. It's a group of Republicans who believe the president has abandoned the party's founding principles. It is headed by a number of Republican advisors with national political experience. One of them is longtime media consultant Rick Wilson. He's a co-founder of the Lincoln Project, and he joins me now. Rick, thank you for joining us. I'd like to start with the pandemic. How has the coronavirus and the administration's handling of it, in your view, changed the upcoming election?
Well, thank you for having me. And I think that the coronavirus has caused a lot of folks to assess whether or not the promises that Donald Trump was some sort of amazing manager in a whole new light, because we knew from the beginning he wasn't. But now it's been proven to Americans that he deceived them about the severity of the virus for several months. He didn't take the steps we needed to prepare the economy. And now we're paying a price that is measured in tens of thousands of lives. And we're also paying a price in terms of the economic damage that is a catastrophic economic damage that's being increasingly felt across the country. And so, the coronavirus was an inflection point for many voters, and we think that there are an awful lot of people that understand that what they were sold in terms of Donald Trump is not what they were delivered.
So Politico has a story with the headline, "The Lincoln Project is trolling Trump, but can it sway voters?" The president's polling, as you know, among Republicans has remained fairly consistent. Do you believe there is room for some movement there?
Look, we believe that there's a pool of voters out there in the country who look at Donald Trump through much different eyes now in the course of a pandemic and in the course of an economic collapse. And those voters, we believe, are amenable to having a very different kind of assessment of Donald Trump. We also know that his numbers have come down with Republicans. We also know that his numbers have started to decline with GOP voters, because there is nothing about Donald Trump that is delivering anything beyond what the hardest core believes in. And so we have seen a softening at the top of his numbers, and they were never 95%. They were never 99% or 95%. They were always somewhere. They were good. They were in the 80s, but now they're in the mid and low 70s, and those numbers are drifting downward as Donald Trump's performance continues to degrade.
So does he have some pressure now, you think, to try to expand his base?
Well, he's unable to expand his base. He cannot do anything to expand his base. It's impossible for him to do anything but be Donald Trump. It's impossible for him to do anything but behave like Donald Trump. And those things that he does make it impossible to get outside of the base Republican vote.
So the Lincoln Project has attacked the president's record on truth, relations with Russia, and its pandemic response. Do you also plan on focusing ads on the president's response to protests in the wake of George Floyd's death?
We've actually done several ads in that regard, talking about how Donald Trump has used the military in policing civilian protests. We've done several ads about how Donald Trump has continued to treat legitimate civilian peaceful protesters as if they are criminals. And we've talked about what kind of America people want to live in, comparing the behavior of this president to overseas dictators, frankly, and overseas authoritarians, because they are unable in Trump's world to see this as anything but a challenge to him personally, and not something that reflects a much larger social moment in the nation.
What is it that you hear, Rick, I'm curious, privately among Republicans who maybe aren't publicly vocal about any misgivings they may have with the president, but who understand that the president's hold and his connection with that base is something that has been effective for the president in the past?
Donald Trump governs Republicans and keeps them in line by one thing, and that's fear. They are terrified of Donald Trump. They do not want to have him tweet at them. They do not want his friends on Fox to say bad things about them. But what they're telling us and other people privately is they believe that he is losing this election. They are terrified we're going to lose the Senate, just as we lost the House because of Donald Trump in 2018. They now believe we're going to lose the Senate. And they are afraid of him, but they are also starting to whisper very clearly that they think that this is the end for him, that he is no longer, campaigning like a man with a viable path to 270.
All right, Rick Wilson, I'm afraid we're out of time. Thank you so much for being with us. Really
Thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.